Well, good evening, everyone. How are you? It's a packed house. I love it. We didn't anticipate having this many people, but wow, what a great crowd. And we're so glad that you're here to spend an evening with Wende Zomnir. We got to meet Wende last year, and as I think all of you know, we are so pleased to have one of our alum come back. Now, what is this event? Well, this event is newish. It's the President's Lecture Series. And we bring in people who are, in my humble opinion, superstars. So Wende, prior to bringing her up on stage, I want her to know that, let's see, we had a Nobel Prize winner, right? Putting her right in the ranks there. We had someone who is basically reinventing space travel. And now we have someone who has disrupted an industry. And so here at the University of North Texas, we like to say we prepare the creative leaders of tomorrow. And how can we do that if we don't introduce to you some of the people who are current creative leaders, people who are really making a difference in their industry, in the world, and in thought about how we do things. So we hope that this lecture will inspire some of you, whether you have budding hopes as entrepreneurs, whether you would really like to build a company, whether you'd like to join a great outfit and bring your disruptive ideas forward. I'm excited for you because I think tonight you're going to find yourself highly stimulated. The official title for Wende is she is the founding partner of Decay Cosmetics. Decay being the second largest cosmetics company in the United States, and a groundbreaking company that has done so much to change our understandings and perception of what makeup is and how it's sold. They are known for an expansive array of colors and textures. Maybe I need some. Sparkly over the eyes, perhaps. We can figure those things out. She continues to lead the brand and its mission to deliver beauty with an edge, and I emphasize an edge, simultaneously providing coveted products and an unexpected point of view. Wow, that sounds like disruption, doesn't it? It sounds like the kind of creativity this university is known for. Now, originally, Wende's from Texas. She went to high school, though, in Belgium and spent time traveling through Europe. She's done gigs in the Soviet Union. Very interesting and diverse life. After graduation, she moved to Chicago to work for the Leo Burnett Company, a global advertising agency. But the beach beckoned. And so Wende took her marketing skills out west to California. She co-founded Urban Decay with Sandy Lerner to shake up a very old cosmetic school, a very old school cosmetics industry. Think about this. Who would imagine going in and just saying, there's going to be new rules. We're going to do things different ways. How exciting is that? She's also an advocate for women's empowerment, and through her Urban Decay Cosmetics created Ultraviolet Edge, a philanthropic initiative to empower women around the world. Now, she lives in Newport Beach with her husband, Doug, and her two sons. This is so California. Crash and Cruz. And Cruz is here tonight. Good to see you, Cruz. Still surfing, playing volleyball, doing the thing. Potential UNT student. Don't want to put you on the spot, but hey, this is an awesome school to go to because we are the creative leaders in the South and around Texas. But in her spare time, Wende can be found doing all kinds of wonderful things like extreme sports. Surfing, diving, snowboarding, cross-country skiing, crossfitting, playing tennis, volleyball, mountain biking, practicing yoga. Man, that was like a workout just saying all that. Running, and of course, knitting. Her secret ambitions are to become a painter and to write a book. So, without further ado, I introduce to you one of UNT's own, a great alumna, someone who I think is going to be fascinating for all of you, and a lesson in how we can free our minds, disrupt, do new things, have fun, and oh, by the way, make some money along the way. I welcome to the stage today Wende Zomnir, and I know you're going to enjoy this. Let's give her a big Mean Green family welcome.
Hi, you guys. I'm not sure that I'm up to the task of Nobel Prize winner, but, you know, I'm going to try. I'm super honored to be back at UNT. This is a place that taught me to be resourceful, a place that taught me to work hard, and it really inspired me to be fearless and try new things. Of course, as we talked about, I'm a UNT grad. I'm the class of '89 and one of the founding partners of Decay Cosmetics. And I'm here tonight to talk to you about my alternative perspective on beauty. And tonight, this talk isn't about how to get that perfect cat eye or find that exact right shade of red lip, but if you want to find me after and ask me that question, you can. I will do application tips, no problem. But instead, I really want to tell you the story of the American beauty revolution of the 2000s and the part that Urban Decay played in it. So 23 years ago, I co-founded and launched a line of edgy cosmetics in wildly different, highly pigmented colors. And I did this out of my Laguna Beach bungalow. I had no prior experience in the cosmetics industry, but I used what I had learned at UNT and at work to make it happen. Today, Urban Decay is sold in 60 countries, and we did over $1 billion in retail sales by 2016, and we were at that time the #2 makeup brand in the US. Now I'm telling you this for perspective because while many of you in this room can probably rattle off a list of beauty brands, some of you may only be able to name a few. And so I get it because beauty is a subculture, but it is a big one. And it was big enough that I was lucky enough to make a living doing something I love. And just to kind of give you some perspective on the something I love, it's when I was a kid, my dream was to make things that I could sell to other people. So my first products, and maybe my mom remembers this, were necklaces made with beads I created by stringing pieces of burned drinking straws. I would burn the straw to melt it and make little beads. And they were ugly, and they were weird, and they were hideous, and no one wanted them, not even my mom. So it was a rough start. But today, I am living my dream, creating products and selling them to people. And it took a long time to get from straw and yarn necklaces to naked palettes, but I was persistent. So a great source of inspiration to remind you to keep working at whatever it is you guys decide you want to do and pursue in life, there's this YouTube video I really recommend you watch, and it's called The Gap by Ira Glass. And he essentially says there is a gap between the kind of work you want to do and what you actually produce when you are starting out. But with practice, that gap starts to shrink and shrink and shrink. So definitely check that out. But I'm going to go back to the beauty revolution. It's like so many other uprisings in that just a few people disrupted an industry that was about aspiration and transformed it into a global movement about inclusion and empowerment. Because shaking up beauty has been my mission for a long time. It's exciting to tell you guys about my journey and hope that it inspires you and dream about what you might do. There are no limits on what you are capable of, and I can't wait to see what that turns into, especially at a school like this that really pushes creativity. You are already learning so many of the skills you need to be a disruptor and a change maker here at UNT. And I say to people who do not maybe embrace disruption and change, I will be happy to take your smartphone off your hands at the end of the talk. So definitely remember that those kinds of things, those were disruptive ideas. So as we push forward into positive evolution, remember that empathy and giving are underrated in our selfie-driven world, and that those attributes also will take you far in real life, especially as they become rarer. So the real magic is how do you combine disruption and empathy? My personal story is part of that revolution, and it all started when I came to understand that makeup should be a form of self-expression. It's not about covering your flaws, but it's really about showing the world who you are. How I came to this understanding really rattled the notion of beauty, and it ended up changing the beauty industry itself. It's surreal to look back on this little project that started in my Laguna Beach bungalow. I was hiring my neighbors who were unemployed surfer girls to help me make displays, and realize that this is now a global brand. So I walk through cities and airports all over the world, and there's Urban Decay, and it's a little weird sometimes, but it's pretty cool. I like to tell people who are not in the beauty business that in the mid-90s, I used what I call an ancient and powerful tool to do this disruption and really mix up a seemingly unshakable and unchangeable industry. And most people are surprised to learn that this ancient and powerful tool and agent of change is lipstick. It may not seem like it, but lipstick is pretty powerful stuff. It has the power to instantly transform people's perception of you. And it was first used 5,000 years ago by the Sumerians, who made it out of ground up gemstones and white lead. You can imagine that's not really good for you, but we don't have lead in lipstick anymore, so don't worry. Cleopatra quickly got in on the action, and Egyptians wore lipstick made out of crushed bugs to create a crimson lip, and this is very interesting, that was more about status than it was about gender. So today, the lipstick effect is a known psychological phenomenon because wearing lipstick can give individuals a confidence boost by making them feel empowered and more attractive and have greater feelings of self-esteem. And the power and joy of personal transformation speaks deeply to many people as a form of self-expression. Just to show you how deeply, in the US alone, retail makeup sales in 2018 in the prestige segment, that's in the segment that Urban Decay plays in, all that, like that not drugstore makeup. So just the prestige segment totaled over $8.1 billion only in the US. And total prestige beauty, including skincare and hair care, was $19 billion. So it's a pretty big industry. And while we clearly embrace the makeup business with our wallets, the makeup business hasn't really always embraced us and our uniqueness. Until recently, makeup was not about self-expression, it was about unattainable ideas. And few of us would have qualified as beautiful enough according to the standards of the beauty industry. We weren't pretty enough, we weren't white enough, skinny enough, or feminine enough. But I am proud to say that those days are over. Because I and some other people had a different perspective on what beauty should be, and this helped dramatically change the makeup business and the definition of beauty. And although it took 20 years, the best part was that a bunch of renegades, weirdos, and outsiders made the industry come along for the ride. Backing up to the beginning of my love affair with makeup, it started when I was 12, and my mom bought me a giant Calvin Klein makeup set for Christmas. And my guess is it was probably so I would stay out of her makeup drawer. And it was the best gift I think I've ever gotten. I taped pictures of Brooke Shields on my mirror, and I would try recreating her look, and I did this all without the help of YouTube, if you can imagine. By the time I was 13, I got sent home from school from wearing too much makeup, and here in Texas, that is really saying something. But there was a darker side. In the 1980s, I felt like I had to choose between being one of the cute girls or one of the smart girls. And having to make that choice felt wrong. By the time I was 16, my perspective on beauty was starting to shift. My outlook on why I wore makeup changed for a couple of reasons. First, I really questioned, why was I beholden to a beauty standard? Why should I have to look a certain way to please people? I was conflicted because I really loved putting on makeup and still wore it with abandon. Second thing that happened was an older man, an authority figure, confronted me and said I was hiding behind a mask of makeup. Now you can imagine how this went over with the high school junior. But I should thank the guy, Because at that moment, I realized I wasn't hiding at all. I was doing the exact opposite. I was telling my story and revealing something about myself to the world. It became all about the power of self-expression. So from the beginning, my vision for Urban Decay was all about being original and fueling that self-expression. It wasn't about covering your flaws or trying to achieve a media-driven standard of beauty. So this idea had been marinating inside my head from when I was 16 for over 10 years. And it shows that all of you already have so many life experiences and memories, both positive and negative, that you will draw on in your future. And it is your choice whether to use them as fuel for your success or to file them away. Back in the 80s and the 90s, the beauty industry wasn't about self-expression. It was based on trying to achieve someone else's ideal of what and who is beautiful, like my pictures of Brooke. So it wasn't exactly diverse or different looking, and the standard of perfection was decided by male executives at big beauty corporations and editors at magazines. The models and images were unattainable and aspirational, and it was an elitist club, and what you look like determined whether you fit in. Now, the irony here is that an industry that was all about transformation had not transformed itself at all, until a group of beauty brand startups, innovative retailers like Sephora, and social media arrived and caused complete and total chaos for them. Urban Decay was one of those small brands with an alternative perspective on what beauty should be. We started in 1996 with 12 nail polish colors, and 10 of those were basically a version of black. And we also had 10 lipsticks, and they were very unusual colors with very provocative names. The name Urban Decay came from the idea that there is beauty in everything, even in a crumbling brick wall or a rusting fire escape, or in any of us. You just have to look a little deeper. We touched a cultural nerve in the mid-90s with Gen Xers coming of age and challenging the status quo, much like you guys as Gen Zers are doing today. We made posters and ran ads in music magazines with lines like, "Does pink make you puke?" and "Burn, Barbie, burn." This was definitely not standard fare for a makeup brand in 1996. And yes, beauty industry executives thought we were completely crazy, but everyone else really loved it. And I always felt like I had a cheerleading section kind of goading me on to do more and more and more. And I think it's interesting in today's sort of gender fluid world that our original stated mission was to create makeup for girls and boys who want to rattle the notion of what beauty is and show the world who they are. In 1996, this was groundbreaking. And I remember putting it into action by setting up free nail polish stations at trade shows. And I would recruit these like He-Man Teamsters to sit down and get their nails painted. I knew we were onto something when I wore this iridescent blue lipstick called UVB to the airport in the early days of Urban Decay. And I'm checking in, the sky cap takes my bag, and he looks at me and he goes, "What is on your lips?" And I said, "It's Urban Decay." And all you Texans will appreciate this. He goes, "Well, it's not Mary Kay, that's for sure." So that's when I knew I was onto something. So Sandy Lerner and I started making that blue lipstick and putting nail polish into medicine bottles because we saw an opening in the sugary, sweet world of makeup. In the mid-1990s, makeup was not today's Technicolor dream of texture and color. I always like to say it was dark days. There was no Ulta, no Sephora. If you wanted high-quality products, your choices were pink, beige, or red, purchased at a traditional makeup department store counter. If you wanted color, the drugstore was your other option, but back in the 90s, the pigments were cheap and chalky. I personally loved high quality, high pigment makeup, and I wanted to embrace the kind of edgier, rebellious side of myself, but there were not options to do that. So Sandy and I made them. We didn't create products or shades because some marketing report told us that's what we should do. We made the products and the shades that we wanted. And I think that authenticity really resonated with people. I've always been a believer that people would rather buy things from other people versus corporations. I think that's why Etsy's so huge. But a beauty product you love is a unique thing. It isn't like fashion. You use it up and then you buy more if it worked for you. Kind of like laundry detergent in a way, but not. It's definitely not soap, and it's not just another consumable good. It has to inspire, it has to feel good in your hand, and it has to be an object of beauty itself. You're putting it on your face. It is your tool of self-expression. So it is way more than packaged goods. And it has to have an extremely deep connection with its owner. So it's this very strange place that beauty's in that it's a use-up product, but it's also a fashion and inspiration and artistic product. The beauty business is interesting because we are always walking that fine line. I always say it's the fine line between art and commerce with our products. We have to deliver performance and results, but we must also create personal connection with the product and the brand, and everything has to resonate. To create the connection with our customers, we told stories through our products and invited people into our world. And back in the 90s, this whole idea of storytelling and beauty was completely new. And you may have heard of color stories like from heritage brands, like things like Winter Beach collection, right? You know, it was like they went off on a limb and did some mauves. But we told real stories about how the products were made, what we stood for, and we used the package, we used the box, we used everything to tell our narrative and let our fans peek right into our UD kitchen. The 1990s were also the first wave of girl power. It was the precursor to today's empowerment movements. For the first time, women were a force in the music industry through festivals like the Lilith Fair, and there were actually lead singers in rock bands, and they wore makeup. So I used this crazy vintage thing called a phone book to track down groundbreaking makeup-loving rising stars like Gwen Stefani and Shirley Manson from Garbage so I could send them nail polish and lipstick. I actually went to a library, found the Minneapolis phone book because I had seen that Shirley Manson was recording in Minneapolis in Spin magazine and called every recording studio and got her on the phone and got her to wear my nail polish. So do you guys remember those pictures of Gwen with famous pictures of blue hair, bindis, and that fuzzy bikini? That was an Urban Decay temporary hair color we made called UD40, and the media coverage really helped put us on the map. So I was always really grateful to all of my rock star fans because they helped launch the brand. Now I also sent boxes of makeup and a little cash on top to a couple of New York party scene it girls. They would keep the cash and then pass out the makeup to their friends and all the cool kids in the city. And it was kind of like low-tech form of early social media. But then real social media happened. We always had a strong connection to our customers through our highly engaged team of in-store makeup artists, but now our makeup junkie fans had a direct line to us and they wanted to talk. We make an eyeshadow primer with a cult following, and it's called Eyeshadow Primer Potion, and this was definitely something they wanted to talk about. Now, the original container was this genie bottle-shaped vial. We picked it because we didn't have any money to tool our own special container in the shape we wanted, and we wanted to project that this formula worked like magic. And the vial was something I had just found at a vendor, so I was like, this works. And I always said, there's a genie in this bottle, and she grants 3 wishes: more vibrant color, no creasing, and long-lasting shadow. See, there's the storytelling. Now, the bottle was really cool, but it was hard to get all of the product out. So in 2007, this is where they start talking. In 2007, people start making videos and posting them on YouTube on how to cut the container open with power tools. Then they created conspiracy theories about how we designed the packaging, which you guys now know I didn't do, designed the packaging to force customers to buy more because you couldn't get it all out. And this was just a fun, unique bottle that told the story, but the new difference with social media and YouTube was we were able to listen to our customers. We switched it to a squeeze tube, and I think this is kind of your first real social media case study where the whole dialogue of videos, comments, and response was a brand having a 360-degree connection with its customers like that. And this is really the beginning of something big for us and every other brand that's out there in the world. A year after this, in 2008, I met Candy Johnson, and I knew she was onto something. Now, Candy was just an aspiring, struggling makeup artist with 4 kids at the time, but if you don't know who she is today, you're probably not part of the beauty subculture. She is a very, very famous YouTube star. When I travel with Candy, we get stopped by her fans waiting to say hi and take photos, and people line up for hours in advance for a meet and greet with her. So YouTube tutorials on beauty are second only to gaming in terms of popularity. And the rise of social media beauty influencers like Candy increased our unfiltered communication and interaction with our audience. So YouTubers also introduced a broader audience to new and different beauty brands and taught people how to take their execution to another level. It became socially acceptable to love wearing makeup, to know how to do your makeup, and we were one of the first brands to really embrace social media. So we had a pretty big following on our MySpace page in 2008, and I remember saying to my business partner at the time, I found this person that I want to employ to do Facebook for us, and we need to hire her. And he looks at me and he says, we're actually going to hire someone to be on Facebook all day? And that was just the beginning of how the beauty landscape would change dramatically. Today we have over 18 people in our social media department alone, and we are definitely not even overly staffed compared to some beauty brands. So beauty was no longer fueled by big ad budgets, and homegrown beauty influencers with a personal opinion, not just a big committee at some big company. These were the people driving the beauty trends. Of course, now that normal that I'm talking about has morphed into something else in the following years, but we could have a whole nother talk on the evolution of social media and beauty, so I'll have to come back for that. Beauty editors at magazines back in the day had always been supportive, but in the early days, I didn't have those advertising dollars, so our press coverage was limited to small mentions in magazines that bestowed editorial coverage based on friendships I had built. Beauty editors also famously do not wear much makeup, and to them, I was that nice Urban Decay lady that just wore a lot of aqua eyeshadow. But when YouTube and Instagram became forces of influence, the people reporting, evaluating, and talking about makeup fully understood my sparkly purple eyelids. Gone were the days of customers not understanding artistry products because social media taught women to use complicated complexion products like color correctors in a way that beauty consultants in a store never could. Before people like Candy, I couldn't make professional level products because people didn't understand them. And this was just another factor that allowed the makeup business to completely explode because there was a whole nother level of products we could create for our customers that they wanted. Now, ideas, principles, and disruption get everyone excited, but we had to back up what we stood for with product that fulfilled the Urban Decay vision. No one parts with their money unless that disruptive product works and earns a spot in her makeup drawer, or his makeup drawer. From the beginning, we pushed boundaries to match our brand philosophy to our product. Unlike most beauty brands, Urban Decay has never ever made a brush with animal hair. We've been cruelty-free since the beginning, and we've completely stood behind that. Every single brush has been synthetic. But back when we started, synthetic fibers weren't where they are today, and animal hair definitely worked better for makeup brushes. But we just knew it wasn't right. So we tried something new. We crimped some of those subpar synthetic fibers to create a unique product that was almost on par with real animal hair, and we called them Good Karma brushes. Our London distributor yelled at us. He was like, "You're never going to sell any of these." And he was equally incensed when we put a skull on an eyeshadow palette. And then everything completely sold out. And then he called and yelled at me again because I didn't have any more to ship to him. But the moment that really helped explode Urban Decay was the Naked palette in 2010. And the top-selling makeup product in all of history started because I asked myself and 2 other of my fellow makeup junkies in the office, what 4 eyeshadows would you bring with you if you were stranded on a desert island? And when we all put our picks on the table and saw all of those shades lined up, everyone had a different point of view, yet they were all so perfect and beautiful together. I had originally envisioned making like a little quad palette, little mini shades of neutrals to carry along with my brightly colored shadows. but my desert island question turned into the original 12-shade Naked palette. And like Naked, most of the most successful products we sell have a personal touch, a story, and a reason for being. I hope that Urban Decay fans still see my point of view coming through in all the products, and they feel the connection we have with them. I try to make it feel like we're still cooking things up for them on the kitchen table in the back of the office, because that is still what really happens. In 1996, we said our goal wasn't just to knock politely on the door of the cosmetics department, it was to knock it down. But we never imagined we would really challenge a big established industry and set in motion a new and better reality. The fallout of what we started in the 90s is a more beautiful world driven by a community of makeup enthusiasts. In the US, 6 out of the top 10 makeup brands in 2018 were originally entrepreneur brands like Urban Decay. That's really incredible that the tide has turned that much. This shift of top makeup brands shows that together we have started a beauty revolution that expands the definition of beauty. The beauty revolution celebrates inclusion and community and encourages entrepreneurship in an industry dominated by big companies. Through sharing and education, it promotes creativity and artistry in everyone and unleashes the power of anyone to be a creator. It cultivates confidence, empowerment, and self-esteem. So the new reality of beauty is here, and I am proud to be behind the upheaval. In 2019, we have evolved from autocracy to democracy in the makeup world. I call it the democratization of beauty, and it is an amazing shift that expands the definition of who is beautiful and who will define what the makeup trends will be. And 2019 is a really exciting time for us at Urban Decay because we've actually achieved so many of the many things we've only dreamed we could affect when we started. And now we have a team of ambassadors that reflect our inclusive vision of beauty, including Lizzo, who is a body-positive Texas flautist with a big voice, and Ezra Miller, a man who wears makeup and looks so good doing it. I helped create Urban Decay in 1996 because in those days, the prestige makeup world was pretty boring. And we wanted to let you know it was okay to be beautiful but unusual. And I think that idea still holds true. And one of our guiding principles at Urban Decay is constant evolution. So we're always changing, always evolving. So in 2019, I like to talk about that beautiful but unusual in a slightly different way, and I like it to be even more inclusive than it was before. So now I like to say Urban Decay is pretty different, which means you can be pretty weird, pretty colorful, pretty outspoken, pretty much anything you want to be. I'm excited that today people are openly addressing beauty and empowerment and demonstrating that choosing or not choosing to wear lipstick is mutually exclusive with being bold, brave, smart, and outspoken. We've always stood for the empowerment of women, and so we started a fund called the Ultraviolet Edge. We've supported a variety of organizations that are doing incredible things to empower women like microloans, literacy programs, shelters, and legal services. But our most important work through the Ultraviolet Edge is done with the Women's Global Empowerment Fund, which has made dramatic changes to women's lives in Gulu, Uganda. Through economic empowerment of community resources and microloans, the women of Gulu who are part of the WGEF program have gone from feeding their children 1 meal a day to 3 meals a day. Over 1,200 women have learned to read. They own restaurants, they start schools, and they even are now running for parliament. We even purchased a machine that they use to run a business making sanitary supplies because those items were not previously available to them before, and they had to miss work or school each month. So to me, it's really exciting when beauty can transform more than what's on the surface and go deeper to help transform lives. So whether you start a revolution or just do something you love, my advice is to follow your convictions, your passions, and your beliefs. Education at a place like UNT gets you ready for what you're going to face out in the world. It gets you ready professionally, and it teaches you how to be. You will get out of it what you put into it, so take control of your own experience. Learn to be resourceful. Try to be flexible. You possess a unique point of view because no one else is you. Take your time and be patient figuring out your journey and then commit to it. Know that it will probably not meet your expectations in some ways, but in other ways, it will exceed them. When things get tough, return to the things you are passionate about and the people who love you to refocus and find your way. I always say, beware of fast friends. Remember that it's okay to say no to bad things, and don't post anything on social media that you don't want your grandmother to see, because it could end up on a billboard in Times Square. Really importantly, take care of your mental and physical health, because with that, everything is possible. And most importantly, nurture your own revolutionary point of view, because even if you don't realize it yet, you are going to change the world. Thank you. Do you have a favorite chair? Oh, thank you. Do you have a favorite chair?
No, you pick.
Okay.
I just want to say, wow, what an inspirational talk. If any of you are out there and you didn't feel that, then you shouldn't be at UNT, because we're the place that creates that kind of magic and that really inspires like you inspired us today. Fantastic, and a big round of applause for Wende. Hello?
Hello.
We're on. We're live.
We're good.
And so we're going to ask a few questions, and then later we'll open it up to the audience. And wow, this is one of the biggest audiences I've ever seen in this room. Let me just say, you outdrew the Nobel Prize winner by about 8-1. Your talk was a tad more accessible than the chemistry of, I don't know, alkanes or something like that. And
But we talked about this. Maybe the chemistry of alkenes can figure out how to keep lipstick off my teeth.
we're going to work on that.
Okay.
I've got some of our top people who are going to be right on it.
We'll make a product.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go in on it with you, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be successful.
Probably work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I have a few questions, but I actually want to start off with one that's a little more personal. You know, you started this company up in the 90s, and you started it from humble origins. But I got to tell you, my wife's daughter, my wife and I have a daughter. Her name's Kristen. She's, it actually turns out she had the baby. But anyhow, back in the 90s, late 90s, she was a young teenager. And she thought your stuff was so cool. And I'm trying to remember, I think she said, yeah, I remember Urban Decay. They made something like, I think it was called Acid Rain.
Yes, we did.
Is that really a thing?
That's really a thing. Yeah.
So why did it, I mean, we're talking about the people who will move a market a decade from then.
Right.
But you captured their imagination. How did you figure that out?
I don't think we figured it out. I think it was what I was talking about, passions and convictions and really following what you believe. I think you have to be smart about, running the business. But I think sometimes you have to go, you know what, I'm really wanting something edgier. We were talking about this whole idea of, why does beauty have to be so perfect? And why does it have to, why do you have to fit in a box? Why do I have to look like, back in the 90s, Paulina Porzakova, right? Or why can't I just be beautiful on my own? And so we really took the whole idea of beauty and we just turned it on its head, and naming things like smog and acid rain, if you look at the color,
It worked so well because they all thought that was just the coolest thing, and it captured, I think, the imagination of an entire generation.
And the moms didn't really like it.
That was bonus, right?
Yeah.
So, you're part of a startup, and you did so many different things. Sometimes the most elucidating moments are when you fail, when something doesn't go right, and when you're really challenged.
Yes.
What was the biggest challenge you had? What was the greatest failure that you had, and how did you overcome it?
I think in our industry we have a lot of failures because not every product's a hit. It may seem like it. You see a brand that's accelerating, but there's a lot of things that we call them the dogs, right? They're dogs. And I have 30 dogs in my office, so I feel like I can call them the dogs. But I think I don't know. I think there were opportunities we missed. I think probably one of the biggest mistakes we made was selling to a strategic too early. I think if we had sat and just been a little more patient and waited, we could have turned it one more time with a bigger private equity investment. So I think that was probably one of the biggest.
And that was pretty recent, right?
That was pretty recent, yeah.
Yeah, well, timing's everything, but you never know when the roller coaster ride's
You
going to go
never
up
know,
and when it's
right.
going to go down. And it's not like you've done poorly, you've done amazingly.
No.
So learning from mistakes.
Yeah, and I think the other mistake I would say from the beginning I would do better is, when you are a creative person and you want to be in a creative business, you're fueled by that vision. And one of the things I wish I had done was spent more time finding like a great ops person, a great like super intense numbers oriented salesperson, people that a finance guy or girl. I think spending time really setting up the like infrastructure of the business is something you sometimes lose sight of because you're busy creating. And we had such great ramp up and response right away, but we didn't have as much infrastructure as we probably should have had at the beginning.
Well, it's funny you say that. Finance is one of the strong programs here. In fact, our students regularly win finance competitions on a national level. Probably didn't know that. You take someone like the
Now I
Fidelity
do.
Corporation,
Yeah.
and they have more UNT students than any other university in the country. So finance here, strong. Just a little plug.
And I believe it. And I have to say the best finance people are also incredibly creative. My favorite CFO ever is a man named Craig Sawin. And I would go to Craig and say, this is what I want to do. And he'd be like, that's crazy. And then we'd sit down and we'd figure out how to do it. So, I just feel like the best finance people have the vision with you.
Well, and the other thing I know,
But they put you in the crate when you need to be put in the crate. Speaking back to the dog analogy.
Is Bob Brown here tonight? No, he is not. So our CFO can be creative at times.
Yeah.
But you're right. Sometimes you have to push him and lean on him, right?
Yeah.
The other thing you said was about data and analytics. And just another little note that we're producing great data and analytics people who are into data, not just the analysis part, but kind of an on-ramp for people who are in things like our great digital merchandising programs and other things, who are now learning data analytics and applying them to how you market and sales. Is that a growing trend across your industry?
Everything. It's everything. So when I mentioned, we could do a whole nother talk on the evolution of social media and all of that, using those analytics is so important. When we first started the brand, if we were going to run a little ad somewhere, I would figure out the CPM, the cost per thousand, and just did my basic media training, analysis on, is this a good buy or a bad buy? Does the demographic profile fit? The magazines would come and pitch you. Now it has nothing to do with any of that. It's all about the data, and I can't even do a quick on the back of a napkin media plan like I used to. It's a full 6 spreadsheets kind of exercise. Yeah.
And by the way, these are questions that I just invented. They're not on any script, and Wendy's killing it. So, artificial intelligence, machine learning. Is there going to be a next phase in how customers choose products that's going to be guided by those things?
Well, there's already things like the smart mirrors where you can obviously try on makeup. And the first few generations of those were pretty scary if any of you use them, the apps or whatever. But I have a really good shot of my son Cruz trying the lipstick app. I didn't show it to anyone. But I think the magic mirrors is what they're called, and I think they're just getting better and better and better. So that's sort of the biggest non-manufacturing, biggest customer piece with AI. And then obviously on the manufacturing end, it could go all kinds of places.
Yeah, I imagine on the sales end also.
Yes.
Yeah, I need a kind of a whole body magic mirror for myself.
I've always said, people say, what product would you invent if you could? And see, I have my eagle on that you gave me.
Yes, it looks great.
And wouldn't it be great if you push this eagle and then a Photoshop filter, making you perfect, just illuminated around your face?
Yeah,
That's my idea.
I'd buy that.
Yeah, I'd buy it too.
That, or I don't know, macho green fingernails or something
Yeah.
like that, but I'm not quite ready for that yet, but you got me thinking about it. So if you have a characteristic for your sales team, or for your team, what are the things that people who work with you absolutely have to have in order to be successful at your company?
Well, I can't answer it one way. I have to answer it two ways. So I have to answer it pre-strategic acquisition and post-strategic acquisition. If you are joining an entrepreneurial company, a startup, or a mid-sized company that is run independently, I think the most important attribute is to be a resourceful person that knows how to get things done and solve problems. I think if you are joining a big strategic company, you still have to be a great problem solver, so that's the common denominator. But you have to be laser focused on your piece and really be able to work cross-functionally across teams. It's a little bit different skill set. One is a more independent kind of person, and the other one is a more cross-functional person. And everybody that I've encountered on sort of both sides of that line, they're great. It's just different people succeed in different environments.
Yeah, so you use the word teams and being part of a collaborative team, and that's something I think we all recognize is an important part of the future. We have a new program that we just started out in our Frisco campus, which is all project-based curriculum. So here's a really weird one for you. How would you like to help us develop the next project-based curriculum about how you become an entrepreneur in the creative industry?
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Does it sound cool?
Yeah, it sounds really cool.
You get your team on it. Okay, so I don't know if Wesley's here today. Wesley, no? But yeah, we're gonna work on that. Jennifer's out there. That's our provost, and she's like going, yes, we'll do that right away. Finally, we have a lot of budding entrepreneurs in the audience. I suspect. How many of you would hope to do something this bold and brave? Raise your hands. Wow, that's a whole lot. What's your advice for if you want to do something amazing and disruptive, and how you just get going on it?
Well, my advice to you is to have a really clear vision and believe in what you're doing and don't let up. I think there's a couple things happening in the world right now. When I started doing this, the barriers to entry were really, really high in the beauty industry, but there wasn't many people doing what I was doing. And it's flipped. Now the barriers to entry are really, really low, but there's a lot of people getting into beauty. So I think you just have to look at whatever industry you're interested in disrupting and getting into and say, sort of what's the dynamic at that point, and so how would you enter in? Would you need to, if it was the barriers to entry are low, but there's a lot of people getting into it, maybe as you do your business plan, you need to pour in a lot more in terms of marketing dollars, right? Versus the other thing where if the barriers to entry are super high, you might have to put more into like R&D or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, and my big tip for anybody who's going to start a makeup company out there, my 6-year-old granddaughter really likes the colors pink, purple, and unicorns. Just saying. So those are. I think you ought to follow that trend a little bit and see where it goes. Look, we probably ought to take a few comments from the audience, and I know we're going a little bit over time, and I hope that's okay. But what I'd love to do is see who has questions for you, and I'm going to make a little statement here. First, ask a question. Don't make a statement. Second, you get one question, not 3 or 4, and let's try to get as many people cycled through as we can, because we've got a very special guest here who can really share some valuable insights with you. So there'll be microphone stands here and there, and Eagle ambassadors who can potentially guide you up to them. If you're going to ask a question, come line up at the microphones. And we'll start with you, young man. Introduce yourself too.
Hi, my name is Avery Speed. I'd like to say welcome back to North Texas.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question. I consider myself to be an entrepreneur, and I'm really interested, how do you find a balance between making ethical decisions in business while also turning a profit in the free competitive market? You are often faced with that dilemma, and it's a really tough one. And there's no one answer to how to solve it. You just have to look at every situation. And I will admit I've definitely crossed over into gray areas at point where maybe there's my line about what's ethical and what's not, but it got fuzzy. I don't think I've ever completely made a decision that was antithetical to what I really believed in.
But I think it's a case by case basis. And sometimes you'll be faced with something and it's great because the ethical choice is the choice that's going to make you the most money. So that happens too.
Thank you.
All right, how about one from this side of the room?
Hello, my name is Sunny Card, and I'm a nonprofit leadership skills major and a part of PLP. I have a question for how you anticipate urban decay influencing not just individualism and like ethical manufacturing, but as that moves into empathy and how we can be a community and have shared identities and still be unique.
That is a very complex question. I'm going to try to do the best I can to answer it. I think, one of those whole social media things, like I talked about a lot of the benefits of it, but there is definitely the illusion of inclusion, right? We're not really sometimes inclusive and sharing and embracing of each other's individuality. So I don't know. I think what you're asking just goes back to, continuing to beat the drum of individuality is important and empathy is important, and you just got to keep trying.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, my name is Eamon Shaw. I'm actually wanting to go into the beauty industry once I get my degree, so it means a lot that you came out and spoke today. But my question was, what finally pushed you to finally just be like, you know what, I'm going to bring all of my new ideas to the table and I'm going to upset some people, but hey, whatever.
Well, that actually helps answer the previous question too. I had an amazing mentor, a female mentor who, I always knew that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial. And I ended up meeting a woman named Sandy Lerner. And if you don't know who Sandy is, she started a company called Cisco Systems. It's basically responsible for 80% of the connections on the internet. She was a female entrepreneur, and she really believed that the makeup industry could be cracked. So when I met her, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know how. And I loved beauty, but I would have never thought beauty. And the universe brought us together. And that's kind of how it came about. So I didn't really talk about it in this talk, but I think mentorship of each other is so important, and helping show each other the way. And so I meet beauty entrepreneurs all the time now, and I'm always introducing them to the people I know at Strategics. I want them to be successful. I think that's what we have to wish for each other, is a lot of success around us. And I always say there's a pie and you can slice it up, but we can always keep growing the pie so that there's enough for everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, and just so you know, Wendy's graciously considered the opportunity to spend almost all of tomorrow with various student groups and getting to know the campus better. So I'm sure that the interactions are going to be dynamite. And I'm really excited to hear the students and the feedback that they give you.
I'm excited
that was
too.
Great question. And so there's follow-up opportunities. All right, over on this side.
Hi, I'm Lauren Steele, class of 2000.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm missing way back. I better get you back there. Hi.
Hello, my name is Jenna. I'd just like to say thank you so much for being here, first of all. I would also like to know how, especially in the face of becoming a subsidiary of L'Oreal, how you have been able to keep your brand's values, more specifically your cruelty-free stance.
Well, it definitely was a challenge at first. Not a challenge to keep, they believed in our cruelty-free stance. And we would not have done the sale if they would not have allowed us to maintain that. But now they are also completely cruelty-free. And I think that, one of the things I love about being acquired by a company like L'Oreal is they really help you on the ethics piece. So a lot of our raw materials, we are able to tap into their resources to make sure all of our raw materials are completely clean, no child labor. We were doing that on our own, but they take it to a whole nother level. Like they've got people in the field checking and making sure. So I think that is one of the best things about being acquired by a strategic once you start to become a global brand, is that you really need to make sure that you are doing the right things. In terms of the cruelty-free, I like to think that we inspired them to get off their butts and make it real for them too. And, one of the things is that you may not have heard, but it sounds like China has always been an animal testing country, and they are starting to lift those requirements. It's pretty exciting. And I think big companies like L'Oreal and Lauder are the ones on the ground doing the negotiations with the Chinese government to lift those restrictions. So I don't always love everything they do. Trust me, it's not always easy, and I do a lot of battling with them in terms of what the brand stands for, but there's good and bad to everything.
Okay, now, I just got to tell you, we can take 2 more questions, and then we're going to have to go ahead and say goodbye to Wendy for today, but hopefully you'll get to see her tomorrow.
There's some people in the back.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, let's get, way back.
Way back.
Okay, we're going to get
Yeah.
you, and then we're going to get you over here, and let's, then we'll wrap it up.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee Kong. I'm a fashion merchandising major. So within the past few years, a lot of makeup brands have been working towards extending their shade range, typically creating darker toned base makeup products for darker toned individuals. So I was wondering if Urban Decay had any, if they were working towards extending the shade range for their base makeup products.
Well, did someone plant you? We just launched a whole new shade range, a whole new foundation called Stay Naked. It includes 50 shades. It is 7 shade ranges, 5 master tones, 3 undertones, or 5 undertones, 3 master tones. So you will be able to find your shade, and it's at Ulta, they do the shade matching, they get the exact perfect shade for you, and we accompanied it with 25 concealers. So it's a pretty amazing product because it's long wearing and looks really beautiful, looks like real skin. So that's always been really important to us. I think I'd like to back up to 2015 when we launched our original Naked Foundation, or was it 14? We launched our original Naked Foundation, and we wanted to launch 28 shades, and the retailers wouldn't let us. They said, oh, that's too many shades. So we had to cut, and we cut not from the ends, we cut from the middles. But I think it's a really brave, amazing new world, and again, more disruption, thanks to Rihanna, for really pushing to have 40, 50 shades be the gold standard.
And a final question here.
Hi, my name is Riley Sage. I'm a cosmetologist and merchandising major. And in an industry that has just so many opinions in it, and you are someone that made bold, innovative, and destructive products in the industry. So did you ever find yourself having to compromise, and say, you know what, here's a mauve for the people that don't like the bold colors? Or did you ever just, you know what, no, if you don't agree with me, then so sorry?
Well, we did make the Naked palette. It actually wasn't, as I mentioned in the speech, it wasn't actually intended to be, a gimme to people that wanted neutrals. It was actually meant to be that little traveler that went with you to go with all your bright shades, just to build a base eye. And it turned into something else that then turned into something else. So if you want to wear neutrals, more power to you. The beginnings of Urban Decay were in bright, bold colors, and that's what we're known for.
Well, that is something that I love. The fact that one of our alum is unafraid to be bold, different, and creative. And I think those are great words to end on. I want to say, how about a giant round of applause for Wendy and a great talk.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm super honored.
And I just wish you luck. I know that she's even going to join the Mean Green family for the football game in Apogee Stadium.
Yes.
So
excited.
it's going to be a really exciting week, and we're just so thrilled you're here, and we hope that you stay involved. And you can tell there's a whole range of students who would just love to hear more from you. So anytime you're in town, you want to come by, we'd be so happy to entertain you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thanks for
you,
having
Wendy.
me.
And thank all of you.